Bonjour, je m'appelle James, 38 ans, and the government admitted that there's like extraterrestrial life or something. Like, there's so much weird stuff. You can't possibly think that we're the only people that live.
So do you believe it was humans that did it, or do you believe it was something else?
Imagine if there was another Jimmy Maloney over there, there's another Jack, and then they were off doing their own thing. The NFTs become this massive money laundering thing. It's just a picture of a monkey.
Yeah.
Like, and no one wants to pay $10 million. Then it's not worth $10 million. You know, Mum walked in, and I used the phrase, I was barbecuing alone. Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Testing. Anything off the table before we start?
Nah, whatever.
Nothing.
Hit me with anything.
Yeah, sweet. Well, if you just want to start by introducing yourself, give everyone I know everyone's probably already knows who you are, but...
James Maloney, former has-been footballer, former assistant Cowboys coach, now unemployed, looking for work.
So how's all that going?
Yeah.
You want to talk about a bit of like what happened with that whole situation or what's come afterwards?
Yeah, I obviously jumped in the car. I was going from a mate's farewell. Had obviously a couple too many. Thought I was all right to drive. Obviously wasn't. And then obviously in turn the club made a decision around, you know, their standards in leadership, being, you know, in a leadership role as a coach. So it was what it was, and you know, I sort of respect that. But so now I've just been sort of killing time, getting ready for holidays, and work out what's next for me.
That charge, because obviously there's other like players with very similar charge, or not similar, I guess you'd say. But is it just because you said the leadership position? Is that the only reason?
Yeah, I think so. That's sort of what they sort of said to me. Obviously, the standards of players, and you know, as a leader in the club, you know, they expect you to be exemplary so that you can enforce those sort of standards, which I suppose is understandable. You know, if I was let go, and I mean, you know, got away with it, and you know, that sort of makes it okay. You can never sort of do anything if a player, you know, has a similar sort of thing. So it's understandable, and you know, is what it is. We move on. We go on to the next thing.
No, it's it. So life after now. So you got holidays coming up. What else? Oh, you want to talk about your holidays or anything like that?
Yeah, well, heading away with the family to Tokyo. So we'll do for 5 nights in Tokyo. Then we're coming back through the Philippines. Yeah. So probably do about 2 weeks through the Philippines. So I've only sort of planned to fly into Manila and then do a day or so there, and then fly to Coron, one of the first islands we're sort of going to go to, and then from there we'll just wing it and take it as we go. So we'll sort of know where I want to go and where we want to go, but we'll just book it on the run. Yeah,
sick. But this isn't your first time, because you did. How long ago was it when you did the Superleague? How many years ago was that?
So I was over from 2020, 2020, 21, 22, 23 were the 4 years I was over in France.
4? Yeah, right.
So 2 playing with the Catalans, so the first 2, 2020 and 2021. Yeah. And then after that, I stayed, and you can get the chômage over there, which is like the French unemployment. Yeah. So I basically stayed for 2 years on the French unemployment and live the dream.
No, that's awesome. How does it differentiate to like rugby league over here though? Is it it's all the exact same rules and all that sort of stuff, or is it?
Yeah, all the same rules. Obviously, the standard in competition is probably a little bit easier. So as you're getting older, it's a little bit easier on the body. Yep. You probably got, you know, probably 4 or 5 teams that are really strong each year, and you know, Catalans were a strong team when we were there, and still are pretty strong. So you don't have the week to week where if you're in the NRL, if you're a little bit off, anyone can beat anyone. Yeah. Where I reckon over there, there's a bigger gap between the best teams and the bottom teams. Yeah. So you know, you don't have these real high intensity games every week. You know, you'll have one, and then you might have another week off, then another one. But you know, there's probably four or five intense games, and then you'll hit the other sides where you can probably win, you know, pretty comfortably.
And because France, obviously, there'd be like a language barrier and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
And as like you playing in the halves, how did you like, I guess, combat that? Like,
Yeah,
being direct
very,
and
very
plain?
lucky, obviously, when we're over there. So Steve McNamara, English, so English coach, so spoke English. Actually, Mac's horrible at French. He's been in there for a long time, still horrible in French, apparently. Very lucky, like the French boys could all speak really good English. In a way, there were young French boys coming through whose English wasn't as good, and now in a real weird, like crazy way, is obviously communication on the field is so important in that. So there's probably these young French kids that if they weren't able to communicate well in English, it could well hold them back from playing first grade in a French team.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, so that's like a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that all positions, or is that just like your key? Like, I guess, like with a front rower, is there a bit more obviously for a halfback to learn English than a front row in those sort of areas?
I suppose they all sort of learn a little bit of English, but I suppose it just goes with who's coaching. I know Trent Robinson was over there,
Okay.
and Robbo speaks fluent French.
Yeah.
So he married a French girl, so he speaks really, really good French. And any of the international boys that played over in Catlins when Robbo was there all speak really good French because he used to coach in French. Even though he could speak the English as well, he thought it was really important to speak French and coach in French. So, you know, I when I got over there, I spoke to Robbo before I went over, and he sort of said it's important to learn French, like, and really try. So I wanted to learn it, so I went over there with an attitude to try and really learn the language. And it's harder than you think, especially because it's so natural to sit in your comfort zone of talking to the other English speaking guys, you know. So it was something I was sort of conscious about, trying to go and talk to the French guys and try talk French, and they laugh at you and they take the piss out of you, but they appreciate it. You know?
So you can still speak French now, or
I can hold, if I'm one-on-one, like, it's not perfect. So because the way French goes, they structure their sentences differently. Like if we say in English, we say that's a red car, they say car red. So they have like the noun, the adjective afterwards. So it's not just about replacing a word with another word. It's the structuring of sentences, all that. So my French would not be perfect, but people can understand me. If I spoke to a French person and I knew different words, one-on-one, if they speak reasonably slow, I can get across what I need.
do you have a sentence or anything like that, or even just your introduction? Can you introduce yourself in French?
Bonjour, je m'appelle James, je suis australien, j'ai 38 ans, j'ai habité en France les derniers 4 ans, mais maintenant j'habite en Australie.
I really hope. I don't know what you said,
That
but
was like, hello, my name is James, I'm Australian, I'm 38 years old, I have lived for 4 years in France, but now I live in Australia.
yeah, right. And was coming back here easy, or did you actually enjoy your time? Like, would you consider even like living over there? Was it that good, or?
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah.
I would go over there in a heartbeat and live. I didn't want to come home. My missus didn't want to come home. Yeah. We loved the lifestyle. It was so laid back, like you're in down the south of France. It's like little village life that's so slow paced. Sort of probably made the transition coming back up here to Townsville easier instead of going back to Sydney where the original plan was. You know, I think even now going back to Sydney next year, you know, with our plans to do that, it'll be a big adjustment going back to such a fast-paced life. So, yeah, mate, we enjoyed it. It's so funny, like over in France, little villages, you drive along through the villages and you'll see like a car driving and one of their friends walking along the side of the road and they just stop in the middle of the road and they talk and have a conversation. And then if cars come behind, no one like bips them and goes, mate, move. But they just sort of sit there and go, oh, he'll be done in a minute. You know, and then he finishes up and then they cruise away. Like the lifestyle like that and the laid backness, like we just loved it.
Yeah, no, that's sick. So what's stopping you, I guess you'd say, from like, I guess moving over there or anything? Like Australia's good and all, like I love Australia myself, but like I feel like the culture over there would just be, I don't know, just the laws that it has in place and all that sort of stuff. I feel like it just seems better than here.
Yeah,
I don't want to say that
a lot less, I suppose, strict. I suppose in a way you probably got, I think when you come to like rules and, you know, you thought about Australia, you probably say it's black and white, like it's this or it's this, you know, whereas it's just a little bit more relaxed, you know, it's sort of, different ways. If you knew someone that could organise something to do it, things can be worked out, you know, it's like, oh, we want to do this. Okay, we can work it out. We like the culture of Europe. Like I think around, like it used to be funny even when we went over there. So, you know, like Europe, you go down to the beach and girls and that, women are topless everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so even for our kids, we found that as like such a
shock.
Yeah, but it's such a good experience because it makes like it's just normal over there. It stops making it a thing like, oh my God, you know, we drive around the beaches in the car with the kids and we go, see how many boobs you can see, like or watch, but it just becomes a normal thing. Yeah. It's not all sexualized and all this sort of stuff. So,
you get that even from Townsville to Sydney. Like Sydney, like coming to, I've travelled down to Sydney, but even just like beeping at someone in Townsville, if you just beep at someone, it's probably going to end up in a fight just straight out of the car. Where like you go down Sydney and stuff, just constant beeps, all that sort of stuff.
Everyone's in a rush, you know, and I think that's the difference between the French life. French is it's not a capitalist, it's a socialist country. So they don't. It's not all about more money, having bigger, better things and all that. It's like they earn enough to have the lifestyle they want to have, and then once they've got that, then they're sweet, you know. So they do like siesta and that, where the shops close from like 12 to 2, and you know they might meant to be open at 2, and then you might turn up at 2:30 and no one's there, and you know maybe they've gone home and maybe they're having a good time at home with their family, and that they went, you know what, I'm not going back today, and that's what it is. But once you adjust, so sometimes for some people when you first get over there, it's a bit strange, and you know, because I remember one of my very early days, I had to go out. I think I had to set up like my mobile phone, get some furniture for the house or something like this. So a couple of things, and I had a day off training. I went, righto, bang, I'm going to do all these things. So I went to do my phone. Whatever reason, I didn't have a certain document. I couldn't do my phone. Then I went to find this bit of furniture I needed. They didn't have any in stock. Then I went and I ended up coming back. I'd done all those things, got nothing done. Yeah. But which can be frustrating sometimes. But once you sort of just stop trying to fight it and just understand that, oh, well, it is what it is. Like, there's no dramas. Yeah. You know, I think, the way of life's really cool. Yeah,
no, it's sick. So what, transitioning back to Sydney, have you got any idea of what you want to do down there, or nothing planned?
Not as yet. I have, you know, reached out to a few people. Obviously, there's clubs that are still involved in semi-finals, all that sort of stuff. So probably after that will be a better time to have a proper conversation with a few people. But I think I might try and go into more sort of part-time consultancy role where I could sort of come into a club and work just with their halves. Yeah. Probably gives me a little bit more flexibility and freedom around what I'm doing rather than a full-time thing where I'm locked in from, you know, mid-November or November through to possibly the start of October.
Yeah. Are you just like trying to stay in footy? Is it just because, some players talk about it's hard to like let go of footy obviously once careers are done? Is that why you're trying, like, have you felt that, like, you obviously miss it, you probably want to play? Does that help, like doing the coaching and stuff? I
think I enjoy it. Like, this year was obviously my first full-time gig as an assistant coach, and there's parts of it, you know, like a lot of video and stuff like that, which is not sort of my sort of thing, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping guys. I enjoyed watching guys develop and, them become better footballers and, sort of go, oh, look, you helped me do this, you helped me do that. I think that's rewarding, so I enjoy that. And I've always thought you got to do something that gets you out of bed in the morning and gives you some sort of job fulfillment, or, so I think that's why I'm sort of thinking maybe a more part-time stuff to still be involved, because I don't want to fully let go of that, because I know I'm good at it and I enjoy it. So I think, it's something I definitely want to be involved in, but maybe doing stuff where I can have a little bit more flexibility to, around life outside of football, because for a long time, that's been my life, has been, from November through to start of October, you dialed in for footy season, So if I could do something that was a bit more flexible from that, yeah, that'd be cool, I reckon.
Yeah, that's sick. Because when did you debut? What age was it?
I was 22, about to turn 23, so that was 2009.
And who was that?
Down in Melbourne.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, for Storm. And was
Storm.
it just 1 year you did there, and then you went?
Yeah. So I had my first year. I played 4 games that year,
Yeah.
and then opportunity to go over to the Warriors.
Yeah. And was that like playing off the bench? Was that 5'8"? Did you play those 4 games?
I played. So at the start of the year when I went down, they had Greg Inglis was playing at 5'8", because they didn't really have back then they didn't have like a genuine 5'8", so that was, when Craig Bellamy called me, and that's what he said. He said, look, mate, there's a spot there, nothing guaranteed, but so then I debuted, I think, round 5 or something like that, played the first game, and then after that, Brett Finch fell out of favour at Parramatta, and then they signed him down at Melbourne, so then I ended up back sat behind Cooper Cronk and Brett Finch again, and then that's why I took the opportunity at the Warriors when that came up.
Yeah, and you've always done 5'8", or is it like you did the combination of playing both half and 5'8"?
5'8". I think a lot of them are very similar these days.
Yeah.
In the way they're done. I suppose it's occasionally my role changed, whether it be from the main organiser of the side or depending on the halfback I was playing with. Otherwise, I'd just, if they were organising and that was their role, then I'd just swing off that and play off that. So my role could change a little bit, just depending on, the side I was in. And
so how's it different? How's it different back then than it is now? Like in terms of how you're saying they're pretty relatively same now.
Yeah,
it's just kicking duties and all that sort of stuff you're saying about now.
Yeah, I think it's just personnel as well. Like I think. You got to play to the strengths of your side, So if I was like, so say when I got to Cronulla, all right, and I was playing with Chatty, so I was like the senior playmaker or whatever, but Chatty's a natural organiser and talker and things like that. So there's no point me coming in and trying to do that role and overdo it if that's his strength. So then I'd let him do that, and then I just play in and around that, So I think it just depends on the quality of player, I suppose, and the strengths of the players that you've got there, and in how you piece it together.
That year that you won, I was talking to Charlie the other day when we were doing the podcast, and he was saying that was a pretty stressful year in terms of like arguments at training and stuff like that. How was that year? Like, it was what made Sharks actually like win that premiership? Was there something that you realised? Was it like you just bonded outside of football? Like maybe you were hanging out outside the club and that actually like secured that bond to help you win that year? Like,
yeah, we had a real good bunch of guys. We had some big personalities, so there was conflict or stuff like that. Look, I used to play on the same edge with Wade Graham, and mate, me and him are real good mates, but we would have biggest blow-ups between each other everywhere. But it was all it wasn't out of self-interest. It was all for the good of the team. Yeah. We had Mickey Innes at 9, so if we wanted the ball on our side and Mickey went the other way, then Wado would be spraying me and going, get me the fucking ball. And I'll go, I'm trying, mate. And then I'll be spraying Mickey, I need the ball. And so there was all these big personalities, but we had a lot of experience too. So we sort of pieced together the way we wanted to play, and we all bought into it. And we, probably played even with me and Wade on that same left edge, because until I got there, Wade was pretty much a ball player on that edge because they didn't have another half and at that time. So coming in, it took a while for me and him just to get the balance right of, when I'll give him the opportunity to be that ball player and not take that away from him. But the other times when I need him to be a back rower and run a line for me and things like that. So, that took time, but it progressed as we went along. And as I say,
how'd that finals compare to like your other premiership with Roosters, that you won?
Yeah.
Was it similar fit, like same sort of thing that you noticed between both? Like, I guess the relationship was there any difference of how the team was structured to make Roosters win compared to Sharks in any ways? Like,
probably different. Like, obviously, when we won for the Roosters, we finished top. We were like best defensive side and all that. We were real defensive based and had a really, really good system and structure that Robbo put in place. I think when we went with Cronulla, we probably we had a really experienced forward pack, which just gave us consistency every week in how I'm laying a platform. And then we had some younger guys outside, we had Jack Bird and Val out one side, and then we had Ricky Latelli and Sasai Feki out the other side that, Benny Barber at fullback who was killing it.
Yeah.
But we'd have different times where even our outside backs would have, not the best game, or they'd push things, but I think we had a really experienced forward pack when you looked like we had Gal and Fafita and Luke Lewis and Chris Heinington and Matty Pryor and all these. So we had this middle like Jace Bakuya. Like our forward pack was really strong and really, really dominant, which give us consistency every week.
Yeah. What was it like playing? Did you ever have these moments, I guess, when you're playing like players like Ben Barber, you just sitting there like you're like, holy fuck, like he's just something else. Like, was there many players you can say that in particular, like off your head, I guess you'd say, of your career, where you're just like, fuck, he was something else? Like,
yeah, mate, there was like Benny Barber that year, like he was in awesome form and really good to play with. Mate, early on, remember Kevin Locke at the Warriors in 2011 when we made the grand final. Kevy was only young coming through, but mate, he could have been anything.
What position? He
was fullback.
Yeah, okay.
But he, mate, I reckon 2011 there was Billy Slater who was the number one fullback, and I reckon he was second behind him. He was awesome. Yeah. And then can't remember what happened with little Nobby. He went away one off season and swallowed a cow and become a little fatty, and he just didn't come on to what he could have been. But mate, he was a freak. He could have been.
So he just played the one season, was it?
He played a couple. He played a few before, but that was sort of his real year. Yeah. 2011. We played for New Zealand, all that sort of things. A few other guys, like played with Shawnee Johnson when he was first coming through. Yeah. Freakish sort of player. Yeah. Played with a fair few. Got to play with Sonny Bill at the Roosters. Yeah. He was a handy player as well.
Yeah, so. 100%. Especially when, just having those. Because Sonny, he played anywhere between, he played second, front. Did he play front as well? Or was it just
mainly just second row, but
but having someone like that on your edge, was he on your side when you were?
He used to play on the other edge.
Okay, yeah.
Right side with Piercy and that. But, to play with guys like that, it's pretty crazy. Played Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was young coming through when I was at the Roosters. Roger was a freak as well. So, been pretty lucky to play with, some very handy players.
Yeah. No, Ben Barber's an interesting one because I played footy. I'd played my first game about 3 years ago. I never played footy in my whole life, and I was just started getting into it and watching on TV and stuff. And I thought I'll just give it a crack and all that sort of stuff. Did one pre-season down at Norths here, and then there was a nines comp in Mackay. I think it's a nines or something like that. And that was my first ever game, and just got chucked. And I think I was playing out on the edge, centre-ish, I guess, because there wasn't really any position in the nines. And my first game across from me was Ben Barber in my first game. And he got like 4 tries on me. And like, yeah, because I think it was like 9-minute halves or something like that. And yeah, he got like 4 tries on me. But that was my first thing I walked down the field. And yeah, he was playing for like the Mackay team.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, so that was an interesting experience.
Wouldn't be the first one that he's shown up, mate. He's a pretty handy player. So to walk out on your first game to give rugby league a go and look across, see Benny.
Yeah, no, it was a good experience.
It's a short straw, that one.
Yeah, no, 100%. Back to overseas, you're saying how you travelled. We were talking the other day about like travelling Europe and all that sort of stuff. So would you recommend that going overseas to everyone? Because like you said, you can just play, travel, actually see the rest of the world. Like what were some of the key experiences you saw? You're saying even like the Vatican and stuff like that the other day.
Yeah.
So is that all that stuff right next to where I guess you play in France? So like it's only like a few hour flight or drive.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Like when you get over to Europe, you can fly anywhere within 2 hours, you know, pretty much cover most of Europe. So yeah, we did a heap of travel. Like any time we could, we sort of, if we had 3 days or more, we just took off. And you can buy flights and find cheap flights if you sort of just go on. There's like the Sky Scanner app over, and you can just put in, you know, if whatever airport you're leaving from. Say you want to leave from Barcelona or Perpignan or whatever, and you can just search like everywhere, and it will just bang out like lowest price flights to any sort of destination, you know, so then you might get something left field and there'll be 20 euro flights to, you know, Italy or to somewhere there or different things. So we did 6 weeks through Italy, which was cool, as we were talking about, like the Vatican, you know, like I'm Catholic, but I don't go to church. I'm not a practicing Catholic, but in terms of like going to Rome and that, I think Rome around the structures that and the things that are built, and like when they were built. Like we were talking about how, like if you had all the money in the world now, you couldn't replicate that. Like the skills to, you know, stonework and all that. There's like these skills that just don't exist anymore.
Yeah. So do you believe it was humans that did it, or do you believe it was something else? Because I've only ever seen online, but seeing in person, you get a whole different experience, and you got to look at some of the stuff and go like you said, we can't even do that now. Like, how is that possible?
Well, I think it's humans. How, like, I don't fully get. Obviously, I can't fathom like how they did it, but then also you see these structures when you learn about them, they're built over different lifetimes. Like the people that started building it weren't alive when it finished. So like it's crazy to think that these things are like handed down and like, oh yeah, I've been working on this. You know, like that's a weird thing, don't you reckon? As a job, to go, I'm starting a job. Like imagine if you're a builder and you're going, oh, what are you working on? I'm going to work on this thing that'll be built. It'll be finished when my grandkids are like, that's nuts.
That's what I mean. I don't understand how I don't know if it was the willpower to just get those sort of things done, but if you're not even going to see the end project and you know that, it'd be like half, why am I doing it?
It's
like,
a weird thing
like,
to just...
I know, halfway through a statue, you're just carving out the nose and you're like, fuck, I'm like dying next week.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you're going, when I die, geez, I hope this next bloke doesn't fuck it up. Like, I've done all this good work. Yeah. I hope that's crazy to think about. Like, and the size of things they did, you know, so long ago with obviously they don't have the mechanical, like, so all that when you sort of think about it, it's like mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's sick. So what, the Vatican in particular was probably the one that stood out to you most when it comes up?
Yeah, when we were talking about, so like obviously Colosseum's like crazy too. Like I think for like around Rome is like just so much history. Because obviously, and then you learn like, so there's lots of places where obviously you hear about like Roman ruins and stuff. And then I learned walking around somewhere that if something, so I think somewhere it was either the Vatican, maybe the Colosseum crowd, the one over was an earthquake, or there was something happened and some part of the Colosseum fell down, and then I think they used those blocks on the Vatican and stuff. So that's they were saying that back in the Roman days, like that's why you would because there was only a certain amount of resources, then when they were moving on from place to place, they would take
the old.
Yeah, sort of half break it down and put it with them to build the next one. So that's why you see these, Roman ruins, but then you see other things that will stand the test of time and have, been there for thousands of years,
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no,
it's
that's sick.
all pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, 100%. What about like, I don't know. So we talked about the Vatican and stuff like that. What about when it comes to like, yeah, you're talking about the other day, even like multiverse and all that sort of stuff. Like, I think we're going on a topic about.
What are we talking about there?
Talking about the telescope, and then we went on to the topic of the.
Oh yeah, space and that. Yeah, because that was all like to the. We were saying I think it was at where was I? Somewhere in Toulouse, I think it was. So they have this big space. So I don't know what it is, like not a theme park, but it's like a place that you can go and take the kids, and there's all this info on space and all that. So they have on one of them, they have what do we say, that big satellite that goes around.
International Space
Station.
Yeah.
And we're saying, so it has like a live feed of like on one of the screens of what it's shooting from.
So while you're there at park, you can see it.
Live feed. So it's on the screen, and then it shows you on the map of where it's going around. And the International Space Station like circumnavigates the world in like an hour and a half or like something like that.
So the world's not flat from looking at it from there. You can see the curvature. Yeah.
So it's like that even in itself is crazy. Like when you think to fly an aeroplane that goes so fast to fly from here to London, which is half the way, takes you 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like circumnavigating in like an hour and a half or something like that. Like that's crazy. And then there was like this thing, I don't know if it was there or someone was just telling me about it or we were talking, but it shows you all these different things. Like there was these boards as you go along, and it basically steps out from like our galaxy of, the sun and all the planets or whatever there. And then as it pulls out, and then what's around it, and then bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it goes to showing all this stuff that, where like our galaxy is like a speck and there's all these things. And then someone was telling me, I think it was like, is it the Hubble telescope or one of those real big,
or James Webb or something,
strong ones or something that they pointed it once, like they just pointed it wherever they got new technology or something, and they pointed it just into pure blackness. And then it basically, when they were able to, with this new technology, to pick up, and then they just found like
fucking
billion new galaxies and stuff, and we're like, that's like mind-blowing. Like,
so there's another James Maloney right here doing
that's
this
what
podcast.
We started talking. We were like, you can't possibly think that we're the only people that live like around, like, and we're like, imagine if there was another, like the exact same, like there was another Jimmy Maloney over there, there's another Jack, and then they were off doing their own thing.
It's fucking wild to think about. It's interesting getting into those sort of topics, but it's a hard one because the moment you start talking about things like that, some people probably just look at you like a lunatic. But like, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, more of that stuff will become normalized. I guess you'd say, like, just because there's no way you can think, like, for example, we're the only ones.
Well, remember we were talking, was it in Florida? Like,
the aliens
6 months ago where there was like every cop car in Miami, like around this, like, shopping center or something like that. And then someone said that they come out and the government admitted that there's like extraterrestrial life or like there's so much weird
the
stuff.
Crazy part is like during COVID, like all that stuff got released, but I just don't think it was like publicized in mainstream media. Like I think the US government has actually announced, like the Pentagon itself, that like aliens
I think they
are
admit
real.
it.
You know what I mean? Like not aliens, but as in they've either found
other life
crafts.
forms.
There's we've found crafts that haven't come from this world. And like the fact that didn't even make like mainstream news, but I don't know, Joe from down the road got $100 increase on his Ergon bill, and that's like the front line of 7 News. It's like, man, I wish they would be covering that stuff more.
Well, you see, I don't know if this is fact, but someone told me, I've heard too, that they reckon NASA originally, before they went to explore space, they were exploring underwater. Have you ever heard this?
Yeah, no, 100%. I
They
think
were
there's only a
exploring
certain
underwater,
percentage.
and then they actually, or that they thought that actually they were better off going to space, like because the ability, there's so much underwater, and that they would never even get close to being able to explore.
Yeah.
So then they're better off like flying to different countries. Like that's crazy as well.
Yeah, that's crazy that like we're spending more time probably, seeing what's on Mars and all that than we are in our own waters. But yeah, I can't blame it. It's so hard. It would be so hard to see thousands of meters of deep. But yeah, there's a certain percentage where they've only searched like X amount of like very low percentage of the ocean compared to, elsewhere. So we haven't even, so the fact that, nowhere else has life form does not make sense. We haven't even found out what's down in our own body waters.
Yeah.
All that shit's so interesting. Like, have you seen like the Navy SEAL one with the Tic Tac? I think it's called the Tic Tac UFO. Nah, this is sick because it's like they had him on like Joe Rogan and stuff like that, but it was like this, like they call it Tic Tac, and it was like an actual lieutenant or something like that in the Navy who like locked onto it, and it was just like traveling like. And that's what the government have said now, that video is like real and stuff like that. And it's just like maneuvering, going underwater, and like it's so sick.
What is it? A Tic Tac?
It's like they call it Tic Tac because it was like the shape of it was just like, and it wasn't exporting any like, it didn't have any like heat or anything like that. So like they, I don't know, didn't know how it was moving, I guess you'd say.
Right.
So, and then another, I reckon you would love that Bob Lazar one on Netflix if you haven't seen that yet.
No, I haven't.
Bob Lazar, another person was on like Joe Rogan. He used to work at Area 51 supposedly, and he just talks about all it. But he came out and told it all on like live news and all that stuff, and everyone said it was crazy. But all the stuff he said back then didn't actually come true till like 20 years later, and now they're believing him. So he was like, they've got these fingerprint scanners or hand scanners or something like that to get in, and everyone was like, there's no such thing as that because it was like 1980s, and then like it came out they did have hand
And now
scan.
they do, like when they go into new countries. And
So like, and he was explaining all these elements that didn't exist, and then they came out to it. So then everyone's like, oh shit, maybe what he was saying was true now.
100%.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that Bob Lazar one on Netflix is so good.
Well, they'd always have, like, if you think of any technology, it would always be there somewhere like that first, before anything like that was come to main, the general population. It's always going to be somewhere there in governments or.
Have you dived into like AI and that sort of stuff? I looked into anything.
I've only seen little bits of chat GPT.
And all that sort of stuff.
The AI, like I'm not good with computers, so it's all that's crazy.
All that world's crazy. That's definitely going to be.
We were talking around AI. So when I was over in France, I was playing with Corey Norman and Chico, like James Seguiaro.
Yeah.
So they were, and Normie was telling me, so he reckons, I'm telling you, AI will be able to do everyone's job.
How many years ago was this?
This was only, like, 2 years ago, a year ago.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So we were driving up train and we used to chat in the car and that. He goes, AI, mate, I'm telling you, it'll be able to do everyone's job soon.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. And then he was like, there'll be this universal wage.
Yeah.
Like this is what he was like, basically every job will be able to be done by computers and then everyone will just get this universal wage. I was like, what do you mean? No way. But then we started talking about there's like an online world.
Like your virtual reality and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but there's and there's like celebrities that have bought like.
Oh, like NFT. So NFTs are like.
No, but it's like a world. It's like a digital, or it's like you go in and people live in this.
Yeah, I think like Facebook
world.
Meta have tried to, like, they've started to do that where you put the goggles on, and you got your own.
Yeah, and you go through and live,
Yeah.
and they're like, this is like where the future will be, and people are like buying like these crazy properties in this like fake world. Like
but
world.
It's weird because it sounds so stupid. Like, the
It is
idea of
stupid,
like,
it's crazy.
it does. It sounds crazy, but like, man, if you look at it from like an art perspective, like, people, the Mona Lisa, take that for example. At the end of the day, it's just a painting, but it's worth like X amount. Like all these new digital assets are becoming like the paintings, I guess you'd say, of the. So like if you bought a painting in the digital world that only you own, it's very similar to like owning a painting in real life.
Yeah.
But obviously you can't physically touch it. But who's to say?
But if it's digital, anyone can just like make a
that's
fakey
true.
of it.
But anyone could make a fake Mona Lisa as well.
Yeah, but it won't. Like it'll have the genuine. Like how would you know?
Yeah,
like how do you put something that's like not copyrighted? You know, when it's digital because it can be just done on a computer.
Nah, you would laugh at the idea of like NFTs when they came out. You've probably seen them. They were called like the Bored Apes. They were like the like monkey photos that all the celebrities are buying and all that sort of stuff.
But they're not. I also heard. So then there was the NFTs become this massive money laundering thing. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, well,
because there were people that would like. There was these ones that become worth. They got bought for $10 million, and it's like you can have something that's worth $10 million, but if you sell it and it's just a picture of a monkey, and no one wants to pay $10 million, then it's not worth $10 million.
Yeah, exactly right.
So then, but then there was all this. I was talking to someone else, and it was like this. It was used by as a money laundering tool. So it would be like, you know, if some underworld figure or whatever, or someone wanted to or own your money like this, well, here you give me this picture of the monkey and I'll pay you $10 million. And then you've got $10 million that could have been for anything. Yeah. And then when they say, where'd you get it? Oh, I sold my monkey. Sold this picture of a monkey. And then they go back and send it off. So then there was all this stuff that it was, the
money laundering side would definitely be. But like the whole idea is the good part about like the crypto is like there's a wallet, I guess you'd say that, you know, so it's actually easy in a way for government to track you technically.
Yeah.
But the money, definitely. Like it's the same thing in the art industry. Like so many people have been caught like buying art that's not technically worth that X amount, selling at lower prices for like tax. Because like NFTs you can claim as like a loss. It's like an asset.
Yeah.
So if you buy a monkey for 10 million and it goes down to $1 million, that's a 9 million capital gains in a way. Like I'm not trying to give out financial advice or anything like that, but there's other.
This is a guide only.
No, I remember trying to talk my dad into it, and it was probably a good thing because the one I bought lost. Like I think I paid like $5,000 for it, and I was like trying to get him onto it. I was like, nah, trust me. And like I remember it's worth like $50 now. It's like fuck, because if I would have got him to buy it, oh fuck. But they definitely have their other like components to them, I guess you'd say. At the end of the day, they're not just images, some of them, but they have crashed a lot just because it's such an oversaturated market now. It was like everyone just started creating their own, but it will be the future. Like it makes 100% sense because if everyone's going to eventually be in the online world, digital assets, like they'll find a way so like people can't just like, I guess, copy, I guess you'd say. Because like if everyone's living in the world, how are people going to, how are people going to flex their belongings? People buy Lambos and expensive stuff to like, so there'll have to be that sort of aspect in the digital world. Like people buy.
It's weird. That's why I swear it's like the metaverse or something.
Yeah, the metaverse.
It's like this thing. And I remember Chico was going, mate, I'm telling you, and I think he was in it or whatever. And I was like, mate, as if everyone's just going to be like in their room, living in this other world, like, just live in your normal world. And he's like, I'm telling you. But then I suppose this is like, like now gaming. Yeah. Gaming is like, they now sell out stadiums. Yeah. Who all go and watch someone play a computer game.
Yeah, like it potentially could become bigger than NRL and stuff like that.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, but like
and
gaming,
losing their marbles. Like, what's doing?
No, but the whole idea of video games even is why I think like the metaverse and stuff will work. Like people say, "Why would you buy a video game? It's not real," and all that sort of stuff. Eventually, in the metaverse, you're going to have games and, people want to buy characters. So someone could create a James Maloney character and you buy that skin, which is worth X amount, So it does have its it does make sense in a way, but I guess,
But it's crazy to just think that people are just going to stop living in a world we're living and try and live in.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard, especially, I'd say, surely in the next 5 to 10 years, the kids growing up in that generation, by the time they get to school, it's probably going to be, headsets in school and stuff like that. Who knows? Which it's scary because social interaction's just going to go to shit. And even now, I don't know if you've ever noticed this. Like, imagine if you just like went on like a bus or a train right now, and then you just tried to talk to some random, they half look at you like, you know, like, so like that's going to be even like worse.
I think it's kids these days, like in terms of, because you go and everyone's on their phone and that the art of like just conversations and like normal connection with people is like, you know, and I'm sure that's why like, there's so many different things around. Talk about kids with anxiety and depression, all this sort of stuff. It's all based around that. Like it's a
What's your
crazy
idea on all that stuff, like anxiety, depression, all that sort of stuff? Like you've got kids yourself. You're probably seeing like how that's actually coming about from social media and things like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's a crazy world, I suppose, especially with kids now. Like I've got kids growing up in that sort of era, and I don't understand it, or I struggle. I understand it's a thing, but when you talk about like anxiety, and depression and stuff like that, something I've never experienced in anything. So, you know, I think when my wife has, she's got a better understanding, and she sort of says to me, like, you don't understand because you've never sort of had anything like that. And, you know, I've probably got a personality where I can not worry about things a lot easier than other people can. So it is scary, especially with, as I said, with kids and that in today's world, and trying to monitor, you know, them on devices, all that sort of stuff. And then the more you see different things about people, like parents that have worked for Google or worked for someone else, and they come out and say, well, I would not let my kids have a device till they're 18, whatever. And you're like, these are these people that worked in there, so they've got inside knowledge of, you know, how it all works and all that. So yeah, it's a hard thing, because that's the way they all communicate, and that's the way they all interact. But you're got to try and, you know, monitor it and all that. So that's
have you found a way to like limit? Obviously, you can't just go take the phone off them and stuff like that. But have you worked out a system to help limit it? Like, I guess the way you want to raise your kids, you probably don't want them to be glued to their phone all the time.
Yeah, we'll try. Like my kids are all pretty good. Obviously, they all go through different periods, like in different stages of where they're at. So, you know, and the thing with your kids is every child's different. You know, they're all this. You can't parent one the same you parent the other ones, because they're all different personalities. They all need different things and stuff like that. So that's all. I suppose, like any parent, that's a constant learning in progress. And you know, there's things where, you know, and then I'll talk to my kids, and then they'll go, oh, well, you don't realise, and you didn't see this, and you didn't notice this, and I go, oh, far out, sorry, like, you know. So it's always you know, not perfect, and you know, you're always sort of learning on the go, but I suppose as long as you always got their best interests and trying to, you know.
So when you were going through NRL, obviously you would have felt pressure and like, I don't know, symptoms of anxiety and stuff like that? Like, did you experience butterflies, or did you never get really that stuff?
Yeah, I'd get nervous, but that was obviously, I think my nerves were all about just like fear of failure, you know, like not wanting to, you know, fail and do that, you know. I think, which is like anything that drives anyone, you know, to not fail. So yeah, and I think I probably noticed it towards the end. Like my sort of era was probably, you know, towards the end, as I was older, was when everyone started getting on social media and all this sort of stuff. And then I still think, you know, I was never that big on social media, so it was something that I never worried about. You know, if anyone wrote something, or I saw someone wrote something, it was water off a duck's back. It didn't bother me at all, you know. And I think that's a skill you need to have. If even today's players, you got to understand the opinions of people that matter and the opinions of people that don't. You know, and that would be no different. Like, it'd be no different now. Like back when we were playing, like if a journalist writes a bad thing about you, or, you know, bags you, and it's like, mate, what have you done? You've never played a game of footy in your life. Yeah. You know, you were good at English at school, so you took up journalism, you know. So why would I worry about what you're saying about rugby league when, you know, you don't have any skin in the game or any, you know.
So would you say some players would have more respect for the journalists that have actually like played footy, then gone into?
Well, I think they would. Anyone, you know, who understands the game, who knows have been there and done it.
Yeah.
You've got some sort of credibility to stand on. But again, it's like, you sort of worry about the opinions that matter, and the opinions that matter are your players, your teammates, your coaches, and stuff like that. I think even depending in some cases, like depending on who they're like, sometimes players' own families are like negative, because they might have their own ideas and go, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And that's not actually productive, or it's, counterproductive to what they actually should be doing, because, it might be a dad or an uncle or someone like that who doesn't actually know a whole lot, but in their ear trying to do stuff, So it's a constant.
Yeah.
Constant
Have you ever
awareness.
thought about going into because obviously I reckon you have the personality to do it, doing like the TV stuff. Like, have you ever considered, like when you're finishing up footy or even now, like have you ever thought about doing commentating or any of that stuff? Or
Look, probably wouldn't say no to it. I don't think it's something I'd like to do full time. Maybe in bits and pieces, possibly. Just wait and see. As I said, I still want to have some sort of involvement around the coaching, because it's something that I do really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then, but to be able to do it more part-time and have a bit more flexibility, and whether, it's looking into avenues like that, to do a bit of media on the side, to do speaking stuff where you can, talk to businesses and that. Like, there's a lot of skills. I remember when we were at Cronulla, and Damien Keogh, he was obviously a former Sydney King, and he was the chairman of Cronulla when we were there, and he was also running Hoyts, the boss of Hoyts and all that. And I remember him saying to us, he's like, you wouldn't believe how many skills you have from being in a professional team environment that can be used by companies and stuff like that. And he was even saying that there's easier now that a company would prefer to employ someone like, a former professional sportsman, and because they have the natural leadership, team building, all these qualities, which are harder to teach than the actual job.
Yeah.
The actual, if it's like, you've got to do this, then we can teach you the process of how to do your job. Yeah. But people that can do that process and do that job well, but it's harder to teach them team skills and leadership and all that. That's like it's a grayer area than, just this is what the role entails. I need you to do this, and this is how you do it. That's black and white. Whereas and I suppose in a lot of businesses and companies, everyone's looking out for themselves. They're not trying to bring a team together. Obviously, they're going to earn a wage and earn a paycheck, and if they can move up the ladder and earn more money, then they want to, and it probably doesn't matter if they, crush someone else on the way, because it's every man for themselves, and I think, that's what sort of that Damien Keogh was explaining to us, is there's so much you can actually offer to companies and stuff like that by having worked and been successful in a high functioning team environment.
Yeah, that's why I think the potty suits you better, just because you can be yourself probably a bit more in the potty, and also you get the full context of actually being able to explain a story, and you don't have to be like, explain in 10 seconds. That's why I'm not a big fan of the not mainstream media, but all that stuff, just because of that reason. That's why it's awesome to see like your potty now with because it's James Graham, Toby, and who else?
Jeremy Lattimore.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lattimore, Toby Rudolph, Professor, and me. And then we get James Graham on a couple of times and different things. But it's been good. That's all something new and exciting. Yeah. For me, something different. But it's getting a bit of traction apparently, and we get on, have a yarn, have a laugh, and.
Because you don't really do you go on socials and check like how it's going and stuff like that, or
I see a little bit. So obviously with my Insta and that, any of their little clips, I get invited to collaborate on. So then once I do that, then they pop up on my thing. So, but all the other stuff of views and that, I don't know any of that. I don't understand it. So I just sort of let the other boys worry about that, and I'll say, "How we going, boys? Are we working?" So, what were they talking about yesterday? We're profitable on YouTube now. Apparently, we made $5 US. So
Oh, there you go. First
out.
paycheck. That's awesome. It's so sick to see, like, yeah, you guys can just do that and get paid for it. Like, it's a pretty not privileged thing. Like, obviously, there's a lot of hard work, but yeah, the ability to be able to talk and like have fans come in and like earn a potential living on it. That's insane. Like,
yeah, I suppose it's just like, obviously with a profile, you get that initial reach and that sort of helps in that. And then I suppose from that, it's just trying to talk about or be relatable to people, or
viral moments, so
or someone to be able to like tune in. I suppose like people, I don't really listen to podcasts, but I suppose people are doing it. It's like tuning the radio on instead of, if you're driving in the car, instead of listening to the radio, I'll listen to a podcast. So if you can like make someone have a laugh or talk about something, or it's just easy listening, they can have a laugh. And I suppose being relatable is probably the biggest thing, because that's something where they can sort of build a bit of a connection and go, oh, I can relate to that, because they're like us. And I think sometimes in what we've done as footballers, people sort of start trying to think that you're like here or you're something different, but you're still just a normal bloke. You just play footy good. That's pretty much the only difference,
Have you had any like crazy fan experiences, I guess you'd say, like, or anything like that, like, or any like weird, I don't know, like, just any stories, I guess you'd say, relating to.
Well, unfair. No, I think it's one thing. You'll always, like, now that I'm finished, I think nowhere near as much. It's like anything when you're playing. You might have the exposure and that, but once you're finished, it's very quickly moved on, and the next guy comes through and like that. And it's always going to be like that. But yeah, you still run into people. I think, I've never had too many bad ones. I think, most people are all right. You get a few that punish you and won't leave you alone. But in general, I think most people are right.
Yeah. So what about stories just in footy in general, like even just around like your premiership win? Surely there's got to be like, there's probably some that obviously you can't talk about and all that sort of stuff, but like, is there even overseas, was there anything, or even just around that when you
overseas we had
or when you won at the Sharks?
Sharks,
because that was their first grand final win, so they would have went off in town.
Yeah, they went pretty crazy. I remember I've told the story a few times, but we ended up crowd surfing through Northies at.
Were they just passing you through? Like,
yeah, so it was like we were down there, and we'd gone back to the stadium afterwards. Got back that morning at like 2 a.m. or whatever, and everyone's in the stadium. We're coming home with a trophy and do the reception there, and then we were just on the drink in the leagues club and just around the stadium all day. And then it got to like the next Arvo, and we're like, let's go down to Northies, which is like obviously one of the main local watering holes down there. So we went down there, and Damien Keogh said to me, he goes, do you reckon we should call Lyle and get him to bring the trophy down? And we're like, fucking oath, let's go, call him. So then I remember about half an hour later, you just hear like the whole pub just erupt, going nuts. And then I look and see Gal walking through with the trophy above his head. And, we walked down, they had a little roped off section for us, and they all sort of gravitated and followed Gal down, and he put the trophy down. We were sitting on the lounge next to him, and it was chockers. Like everyone was like sardines around this thing. I said to Gal, I was like, I'm going to go jump on him and go crowd surf. So then it started. Then I ran up, and I think it was like off a chair onto a table, and then like leapt into the thing, and got passed around, and then got tipped back, and then we started getting guys one by one running and jumping up, and I actually lost my phone out of my pocket somewhere there, and I hadn't spoke to me missus in a while, and I realised I lost my phone. I think I got Chatty, actually. I said, Chatty, can I borrow your phone? Just need to call Jess. So I called Jess and just said, hey, babe, all good. I'll be home later. I've lost my phone, and she goes, do you think you lost it crowd surfing through Northies? And I went, yes, actually, that's exactly where I thought I lost it. How did you know? And then, she heard somewhere or someone had wrote on something that Jimmy Maloney's just lit up Northies and set it up. So, yeah, we had some good times, and we had a good night after the Roosters. We went to had a mate who was running a club tunnel at the time, and that was the old Dragonfly in the Cross. And we were back at the Leagues Club, at East Leagues Club, and it must have been, 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, early hours of the morning. And I called Roger and I said, mate, are you working? And he wasn't actually there. He was somewhere else. And I said, mate, boys, we need somewhere to drink. So obviously the Leagues Club will close. No one wants to go home. You're just going to drink all the way through the night. So he called me, he goes, yeah, bro, sweet. And he picked up the phone to the club where he was managing and all that. And he called him and said, I need the bar staff to stay, keep a security guard, blah, blah. The boys are all coming in. So we all ended up in there and walked out of there at like 10 o'clock in the morning to go to the fan day the next day. So we went straight back into the fan day, and
that's sick.
Some good times.
No, that's awesome. What about I was telling one of my mates about doing this potty, and he sent me this video of the stealing shoes and stuff like that. Yeah. Is that like something you're just notoriously known for?
No,
is it one instance or?
It was a couple. Like it just happened. It was like a few times on a game. Like if I tackled someone like around the legs and their boot came off or whatever, and I was just like, well,
can you get penalised for that, or is that just like?
No, it was never ever penalised.
Yeah.
There was all this stuff because I think journos or something seen it a couple of times, and then they said, oh, look, this is going to be stomped out or something like that. But I never heard anything from the NRL officially. But it was very rare. It was like probably 2 or 3 times happened that I tackled someone, their boot just happened to come off.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, instead of, I'm not just going to give it back to him.
Yeah,
like,
fuck him.
Whooshka.
Yeah.
So I threw it as far as I could. And
I didn't even know the other day till the podcast you just did with Donnie and Robbie, that clip, I saw them upload a clip where it was like that, the barbecue alone. Man, I didn't even know that was a thing till they played it. And I was just like, what's this barbecue alone thing? And like last night I went online, I watched the video on like the footy show and stuff. So that barbecue alone was, I don't know the full context. Was that like an actual story that happened? Yeah. And then you've turned it in, or what's the go with that whole?
So it was like a story. So obviously I was on the footy show and I was asked about like a most embarrassing moment or whatever. Yeah. So then I was telling this story where, mum walked in and I used the phrase, I was barbecuing alone.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'd seen it. I remember the show 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen and all that. So I'd heard this like maybe a couple of weeks before or something, use this term on that show as like, so that was like fresh in my memory. So then I just sort of worded it like that. And then it sort of, went nuts. And
then you just created the music video after it went.
So then, then the Michael Jackson one. So that was all just like a G-up, bit of fun with the footy show doing afterwards. But it blew up and it just made like a.
And you would have been like, was that on? You were playing at the time, obviously.
Yeah,
like
I was back at the Roosters. That would have been like 2013.
Yeah,
just when I got back to the Roosters.
Yeah, right. How's your missus and stuff? How does she like deal with seeing all that sort of stuff? She obviously would be just used to it. And she was pretty funny. Like they even got her like, 'cause she played at the start of the clip. Yeah. She does that. So but it was funny. Like I was saying. The other boys, like, it's crazy how many times like people will still say it to me now, like being barbecued. Yeah, and bro, I've never heard of that term until like.
And then that's what I was saying. I was like, you're just asking me if I'm wanking. Like, it's a weird thing to ask people.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good term to use. I'm going to start using it. No, cheers for coming on.
Too easy, man. No dramas.
Yeah, no, we'll leave it at that.
Beautiful.